Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing out there tonight? I want to welcome everybody to a special episode of Mannimal Research. This is a special night and a special time, and that's all for we have three very special guests, three people that need very little introduction to the cryptozoology world, and we're excited to have them. First off, want to ask my partner in crime, Ricky, joins me as always. How's it going, buddy?
Doing good, Wayne. I understand y'all boys had a fun-filled night over on the Blue Ridge.
We had some eventful stuff go down. We are actually going to be talking about that a little later, since we're a little stretched on time tonight with one of our guests. We'll say that we'll talk about it a little bit later if that's all right.
Hey, that's fine the way to.
Want to ask everybody as usual, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We sure do appreciate all the support that we can get. And as always, head over to our website, mannimalresearch.com. Check us out over there. You guys can report your sightings and get information on becoming active members, getting out and doing some research yourself. We'd be happy to talk to any of you about that. And always, we believe that best way to learn about these guys is having people on that's had actual encounters to learn from them. So if you've had sightings, please report those, and we'll talk about getting you on here so you can share it with everybody and teach us all a little something. All that being said, I want to talk about our guest tonight. We're really excited. We have Mr. Kenney Irish on. He's an author. He actually had a book released just a couple weeks ago on June 6th, actually. He is accompanied by someone who needs actually no introduction, Mr. Ken Gerhard. The very talented, famous Mr. Ken Gerhard is joining us tonight, along with Katy Elizabeth. Katy is doing a lot of good stuff in the cryptozoology world as well, and we're excited to have them. They also have, Ken had a book come out back in September of 2009, and Katy's will be released in July, so next month. So these guys are on here to talk about their books. We're doing it a little bit different tonight. Not going to ask them a whole lot of questions, not going to ask about experience or anything. We're going to give them the floor and just let them talk about the things that they have coming up, because, that's just the best way to show them the respect that they deserve. So, Ricky, if you're ready, buddy, we'll bring them on.
Hey, I'm ready, man. Let's get to it.
All right. Do we have everybody?
Hey, good evening.
Good evening, Ken. Kenny, what about Katy?
Katy said the audio on her end's breaking up a little bit, but she said she'll muddle through it. So
okay,
she's
very
a fighter.
good.
She's a fighter, so she'll make it happen.
Absolutely. Well, we are honored, guys, to have each and every one of you on here. I respect you all for the stuff that you've done.
I'm here.
And hey, there she is. Maybe she can hear us and can chime in every once in a while. We really want her to talk about some of the stuff that she's got coming up. Really do. We only got Mr. Ken Gerhard for about a half hour tonight. He's got to get out of here about 8 o'clock. So, Ken, you want to open up, buddy, and just talk a little bit about yourself and some of the places we might have seen you and your book, and just take the floor, buddy.
Well, first of all, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is feeling well and staying safe. It's good to see so many friendly faces. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Well, I'm a cryptozoologist, which means that I investigate evidence of quote-unquote undescribed animals, which often includes kind of some of our more romantic creatures or mystery cryptids. Things like Bigfoot, the Yeti, the Loch Ness Monster, Thunderbirds, Black Panthers, and so forth. So I love the whole diversity of the field. I'm assuming a lot of your listeners tonight are very open-minded to the possibility that things like Bigfoot and lake monsters and other cryptids do exist. So that's why we're all kind of here talking about it, which I think is awesome. But that's kind of what I do. And I have a fairly new Bigfoot book out. It's called The Essential Guide to Bigfoot. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to these days, is just kind of promoting that one.
All right, very good. You got some speaking engagements coming up too, don't you? You wanna plug those maybe a little bit?
Yeah, there are some engagements that are still being organized, some conferences. The organizers, of course, to my understanding, are complying with everything they have to and trying to make it work in terms of social distancing and making everyone feel comfortable. So, but I'll be speaking at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference in Gatlinburg, Tennessee on July 25th, along with a fairly stellar lineup of speakers. I will be on, 2 weeks after that, which is the 8th, I believe, of August. I'll be speaking at the UP, that's the Upper Peninsula, Michigan Bigfoot Conference, which is up there in, I'll probably slaughter the name, Saint Ignace or Ignace or something, but it's up in the Netherlands of Michigan. And then I'll be speaking at the Hanobi Bigfoot Festival in Hanobi, Oklahoma at the beginning of October, and the Texas Bigfoot Conference, which will also be in October, and that's in Jefferson, Texas.
You got a full slate, huh, buddy?
Well, not as full as it usually is. Typically, I speak at about 15, 16 events a year, and this year it's only going to be about 6 or 7 for understandable reasons. But yeah, I try to stay busy.
Okay, well, very good, very good. Like I said, it's awesome to have you, buddy.
Thank you for having me on.
And Kenny, what's up, buddy? We're excited about your book. It released just a couple weeks ago. Let's hear a little bit about it.
All right, yeah. So when I was writing the book, every time I would write a chapter, I'd look at it and I was not happy with it. So I'm like, I got to try to do something that's like completely opposite of what I'm thinking. So I'm just like, you know what? I want to try to do like a history lesson. I want to kind of do like a tour type of book where people are gonna, it's not every chapter is just, the whole book isn't just like all about Bigfoot through every chapter. Bigfoot is talked about in every single chapter. But I started out by giving history of like the state, different people that were born in the state. Cause I kind of wanted to do something different. I wasn't happy with it. So I kind of redid it a bunch of times and then finally, got it where I wanted it. And, Ken and Katie were, kind enough to, step up and write forwards for it, which was amazing. And, it was perfect too, because, the way Ken's started and kind of ended, Katie's picked up and went in that direction. It was just fantastic. It was really, really good. So I'm really excited about it. It's doing really well. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from it across the country. So I'm definitely happy to be with the publisher I'm with. They're really supportive and helping me out, and it's been good so far. It's been really good.
It looks like we lost Ken. I don't know if he had to get out here early or just had a bad connection, but maybe he can get back on. I don't know. Katie, did that help your line any bit? Can you hear us any better? I really hate that we're having trouble with Katie. I was interested. I know that she does a lot with the Lake Champlain monster champ, and I was wanting to hear her talk a little bit about that, talk about her upcoming book. Maybe we can get her back on some other time to talk about it and promote it a little bit for her. I hate that she's having this trouble.
Yeah, I'm not sure that she can hear the audio.
Yeah, dang it. Are you trying to talk to her, Kenny?
I am. I'll have her. Yeah. Well, what we can do is, I don't know. Maybe we might want to maybe reschedule it because I'm not sure what's happening on her end there, and it looks like we lost Ken. So.
Well, it looks like Ken's back.
Oh, is he? Okay, good.
There you are, my friend. What happened?
not sure. I moved from my computer to my phone because I usually don't have problems, but just to be safe, I figured I'd try something else. So
Yeah.
sorry about that.
No, it's all right. It's all right. We trying to get Katie to communicate a little bit with us, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And just explaining to them, that's a bummer. I was really hoping to get a chance to talk to her and she could share a little bit about what she's been doing. Katie, you can't hear us, can you? All right. Well, it looks like we got a little bit of time to kill. Ken, what got you into this whole cryptozoology? And is Bigfoot your first love, or what are you into exactly?
Well, Bigfoot was my first inspiration. So, I love all of them, all of the cryptids that I investigate. I'm very passionate about. But of course, people always ask me how I got involved in it because it's not a conventional undertaking. But it's just been a lifelong passion of mine. Unlike many other researchers, I never had that life-changing encounter or experience. But essentially, when I was a young boy, I was already fascinated by monsters. I love monster movies and animals and critters. And so when I first heard about Bigfoot, I was just like a switch went off. And, I just became kind of obsessed with the subject and other cryptids as well, not just Bigfoot, but that was the first one I kind of heard about. And around that same time period, which was in 1976, as a young man, I also saw an exhibit called the Minnesota Iceman, which was at the Minnesota State Fair and alleged to be a kind of a dead Bigfoot frozen in this block of ice, but kind of a controversial story. But anyways, so all of that kind of happened at the same time. But growing up, my mother was a huge inspiration. She took me on vacations. She was a travel agent. She took me all over the world, and I got to, visit the Amazon jungle and the Australian interior and all these amazing places. And then Loch Ness when I was 15 years old, vacation there. And I certainly never planned for it to be a career, just something that I've pursued my whole life. And I've been very blessed. I've had opportunities to, do some TV shows and things, write some books, and it's opened some doors for me. So it's been a fun ride, but it was not something I ever planned on doing. But I love speaking in front of young people. Sometimes I speak to high school groups and groups at the zoo, and what I like to tell them is, do or be whatever you want. Don't let someone tell you anything is impossible, because I do what I love, which a lot of people call hunting monsters, which is kind of a romantic way to look at it, but it's what I do full time, and it's a lot of fun.
It's not a bad gig. Not a bad gig, I can tell you that. So
it's not as lucrative as people think. So that's a lot of misconceptions about that. You're in it for the money, and I'm like, what? Money? Where's the money?
I haven't found it yet.
I haven't seen any of that, but that doesn't matter to me. I love what I do. So,
What was that, Ricky?
I said nowadays times I think we spend more than we make.
That's right.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
That's certainly been the case with us.
It all goes right back into the next trip, into the next, whatever. Even it's just regardless of how much you put into it. But the thing is we love it. We love what we're doing, and that's the main thing. So.
Okay. Well, Kenny, when's the last time that you got to get out and do any field research? You and Gary been out any or?
Yeah, we actually we went out. Well, Gary's out in the woods all the time. He's constantly out in the woods. He's a like a survivalist, hiker type of guy. I went out a couple weeks ago, and we had a really good time. We're looking at kind of switching up some of the areas that we've been searching in, because it's like everybody, because of the quarantine, and there's nothing else open but the woods. So everybody's going in the woods right now. So so we're trying to find, some areas or go deeper in from where we are to try to avoid running into people. And so that's kind of the challenge right now that we've been facing. But yeah, we're definitely getting out and doing what we possibly can. As far as events, I mean, so many of them have been canceled this year, due to COVID. I mean, as of right now, I mean, I've got 4 left on the board, which they could still potentially be canceled last minute. So like I've got one a Writers Institute book fair at UAlbany College in September. The Sasquatch Festival in Whitehall, New York. I'm supposed to be speaking at that. I've got a signing coming up in Stowe, Vermont, and then the Portland, Maine Paracon I'm supposed to be at in November. But again, it's all depending on whether things cancel or not. So a lot is, as we know, is canceled so far this year. Like the International Bigfoot Conference, that I was supposed to be at that. That's in Washington. That canceled. DeadCon canceled. Lake Champlain Monster Festival canceled. Paravation at the Strasbourg Historical canceled. That's in Virginia. So yeah, everything's just kind of canceling out. But I've been trying to stay busy, just doing a lot of different radio shows, podcasts. Just did one at 1:30 this morning from 1 to 3. Me and the founder of the group that I'm with, we were on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. That was a good time. I love that guy. He's just wicked character. But yeah, I mean, as of right now, that's kind of how I'm trying to stay busy. Just marketing the books, myself, colleagues. And, just, doing, a bunch of different radio shows. So this Monday, there's the podcast called Storming the Unknown. I'm going to be on that. July 12th, I'm going to be on Fate Radio. Going to be on What the Frick Paranormal Warehouse in July as well. So, just staying, just trying to stay busy and just keep doing what I'm doing and, just, trying to stay focused.
Yeah. Ken, I'm kind of interested. Kind of the same question to you. When is the last time you got a chance to get out and do some investigating yourself? Doing some field work.
Yeah, sadly, I haven't really had much of an opportunity to get out in the field this year either. I was hoping to do some work in some different areas, but was not meant to be. Fortunately, there are some wooded parks near where I live here in San Antonio. So I do, my routine is every morning I get up and I hike about 3 miles through the woods. So I haven't missed the woods too much. I've seen a lot of animals, no cryptids, and not a lot of Bigfoot activity around San Antonio. So I'm not too optimistic about that. But one cool thing that happened recently is that I have a good friend and colleague that lives near San Antonio. His name is Dr. Haskell Hart, and he got involved in the Bigfoot field in recent years. And he's a PhD from chemistry. He has a PhD in chemistry from Harvard. And basically, he has written some papers that are challenging the alleged DNA findings, the Melba Ketchum Erickson Project DNA findings, and he kind of contested those in very scientific papers. But I also found out that he's actually quite adept at hair analysis, because hair analysis, of course, it's all done under a microscope, and it's a comparative thing, as you guys know. You study hairs typically by looking at the morphology, the different features on the hair. If it's magnified, you can see the scalation patterns and the medulla and all that stuff. So I've had a number of alleged Bigfoot hair samples sent to me through the years. And I always meant to get a microscope and try to figure out how to do it myself. But I finally had an opportunity to send them off to him, and he's retired. So he's been able to spend some time looking at them, and from all over the country. And so far, nothing really intriguing. I mean, as you might expect, many of them have come back as known animals, cows, and domestic animals and things like that. But he did say there was one hair sample from Oklahoma that is somewhat human-like. And these particular hairs were sent to me by some Native American people that live in central Oklahoma that found them on a barbed wire fence where they'd had some sightings. So, I'm not trying to be overly optimistic, but, at least that's, who knows? Maybe it was a human hair. Maybe somebody got their hair stuck on that barbed wire fence. But anyways, the reason I bring it up is that these are the types of things that other researchers out there need to think about in terms of, when you collect a sample, what do you do with it? We're not all trained in things like hair analysis or, we don't all have access to DNA labs and things like that. So I think it's very important for the Bigfoot community to have an infrastructure in place in terms of being able to resource different evidence out to experts. If you know someone that can pick, if you have a buddy that maybe has a microscope and he's good at looking at things under microscopes, maybe he would be a good candidate to just at least do a kind of a very initial study of the hairs and say, okay, well, we can compare it to this and that and whatever. So I think peer review is another important thing. And that's another reason I bring it up is one of the problems I see in the Bigfoot field is a lot of field researchers, which let's face it, most of us are field researchers. We get out in the bush, look for tracks, look for tree bends or whatever. It's scientifically, it's really not appropriate for field researchers to also be lab technicians and try to do both. And it's also harder to be objective, right? If you found the evidence,
absolutely,
of course you want it to be a Bigfoot hair. So when you're looking at it, you're going to have kind of a biased view. So I think it's important for Bigfoot researchers to try to build up a little network or a community of other peers that can review your work. So when you find something, you send pictures or send it off to another researcher that you trust, that you think can be objective and say, okay, here it is. What do you think? And, just kind of bounce things off of each other. I think that's, it does happen in the Bigfoot community, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm just trying to encourage that hopefully to happen more and to have more of that kind of system of checks and balances where we can all kind of look at each other's work and bounce ideas off each other and stuff.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, you're saying a lot of what we feel as a group. The reason I started this group, Mannimal Research, is all the negativity I've seen amongst peers. It's like everybody is battling each other. It seems like you're almost afraid to present good evidence, because it seems like your peers are going to be the ones that start bashing you. It's not the skeptics per se. It's more or less the people that have been doing this for years, the so-called experts, and how can you be an expert at something like Bigfoot, is what I want to know. But yeah, I mean, you said it great. You said it great. It would be awesome if we could have that kind of relationship amongst peers to where we could bounce stuff off of each other and be objective.
Yeah, you definitely you can't do that with everybody,
Go ahead, Kenny.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, you can't do that with everybody. And, and unfortunately what I'm seeing a lot is, folks are getting, certain pictures or certain evidence, and then posting it in groups and this and that. And instead of just kind of like taking it and bringing it, just kind of like, I think folks need to kind of research what they're researching, if that makes sense. And I believe that's what Ken's saying, because again, a lot of people are just kind of getting, what they see to be evidence and then just automatically posting it or putting it out. But yeah, we definitely need to hold each other accountable, in a positive sense. The person that oversees, the NYBS, Gary, the founder, we don't necessarily agree on everything, but the thing is we balance each other out too, where I might be, hot and heavy on something going, oh man, this is awesome. He's able to, in a positive way be like, oh, wait a minute, back up. Let's look at this like this. So, you definitely got to have kind of like a close group of people, again, that think kind of the same, but at the same time also, can give you positive feedback, but it also be, constructive, where again, nowadays I just see a lot of people just posting stuff online, and then, of course you get somebody that comes in and just starts fighting with them, and it's, so I just scroll right by all that stuff. I don't get involved in that, or at least I try not to, so because it's just not worth it. But yeah, we definitely need peers and different folks that we can go to and present, and even if it seems really stupid, but you can't figure it out, folks like that you can say, hey, can you just look at this for me? Mm-hmm. And I think that's gonna go a long way. And I mean, with so many people right now getting into the field, because I love the show Finding Bigfoot, and that show made Bigfoot mainstream. So you've got people coming from out of the woodworks now, diving into it, and but yet they're not really doing the work, or they're not really doing the research. They're just watching the show and maybe watching a couple videos, and then they're calling themselves experts. So you got to be real careful, who you're throwing your information at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well said. Can I espouse one other opinion,
Absolutely.
which is probably going to piss some people off? I don't know, maybe not.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's always great for prime time, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, I appreciate what you said, Wayne. There are no experts in the Bigfoot field, and I kind of cringe when people call anyone an expert, me or anyone else. And it's, we're all speculating. That's all any of us are doing. But I think there are different levels of speculation based on how much time, how objective, and so forth. But anyways, exactly. This is just my opinion, but I've gotten to the point where I think that maybe as a Bigfoot field, it's time to move on from photographic evidence, or attempting to get photographic evidence. I think that it will never be conclusive. I think that there's certainly it's too easy for people to hoax or misidentify something. But beyond that, if our aim is to prove conclusively that Bigfoot exists, then any photograph is always going to be in question. And even if it's crystal clear and jaw-dropping, there are going to be people who say, well, that was photoshopped, or that was this or that. So I don't know. I think our efforts could be put into other areas that would be more fruitful than photography. And I think you have burgeoning technologies now, like DNA analysis is becoming more accessible. Mm-hmm. eDNA, environmental DNA, and it's not as hard to collect DNA evidence. You can learn how to do it properly without contaminating it. And so far, if you think you find a piece of flesh or droppings or hair in the woods, that would go a much longer way in terms of trying to provide conclusive proof. And, ultimately, I think what we need to remain, and I'm not saying we need to go out and harm these animals, but, if we're all in agreement that Bigfoot exists, then there must be a population in the low thousands. That's in my book, The Essential Guide to Bigfoot. It's speculation, but it's good speculation, I think. Their numbers must be in the low thousands across North America. And obviously they've been here for thousands of years. And they're very large animals, right? They've left behind. They're somewhere out there in the woods. There are bones and teeth and things, and maybe people step over them because it's just a big bone in the woods, and that might be a moose or a cow or who knows. But I'd like to see more researchers focusing their effort on trying to figure out, how do we find a bone? How do we find a tooth? How can we find physical remains, even if droppings, hair, whatever. And it's just frustrating when you see a lot of researchers that are investing so much time and effort into trail cams and get this and that. But, we've been doing that now for years and years. And, as Kenney said, everything that's posted online, it's like, it just starts an argument, oh, you don't have anything, or no, I can see 8 of them crouched down there, whatever. But anyways, just my opinion, but something to consider. Yeah. Maybe we could put more resources and effort and time into finding physical evidence as opposed to photographic evidence, or even audio recordings, which are cool. I love audio recordings, yeah. But You know, it's just not. It just doesn't build a strong enough case in terms of the general public and the scientific community.
Sure.
Yeah.
And as far as with pictures, and you're right about, especially now with technology, you know, it's getting more rigid in trying to, really identify on what's going on, because I mean, everybody's got a camera, everybody's got this, everybody's got that. And again, I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, there's people that just wanna, they want their 10 minutes of fame. And so I definitely think it's important that. Can you guys hear that? Can you guys hear that buzzing?
Sorry, that might be me. That might be me.
Oh,
Find that.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's a scientist with. No, I'm just kidding. You got the results. They're in. No.
Awesome.
Yeah. No. Great points, Kenny. Yeah. Just these things are all worth discussing. They're all important. So.
Well, I think a lot of the time too is these discussions don't happen enough. I think a lot of the time a lot of folks want to just talk about kind of what they're doing, not necessarily maybe what maybe they should be doing or what they could be doing different, because I think a lot of people again are kind of following the Hollywood playbook, if you will, of this is what you do. You go out and you do it like this. You go out and you do it like this. You go out and you do it like this. And then it just kind of gets all kind of muddled after that and nobody's kind of really bringing in anything kind of new or everybody's like, well, we want to get the science behind it. We want to get the science behind it. But there's not really a lot of people. Well, there are a lot, but there's more people that aren't doing anything to try to get the science behind it. Just kind of like doing like the things that Hollywood is just kind of, put in our minds that this is what you do. So.
Yeah. Very, very well said. Very well said. Ken, you got to get out of here, buddy. Is that your alarm clock?
No, that's. But do we lose Katie? Do we not have Katie this evening?
Yeah,
yeah.
She just there's.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me stick around for 10 more minutes. How's that? And I'm kind of, unless Kenny wants to, be the star of the show, and he can.
Never.
He's certainly capable of filling this last half hour by himself. So
I don't know what you mean by that, but.
So yeah, Katie.
Unless you guys want to get rid of me, that's cool too.
No, stick around.
Not
buddy.
At all.
Stick around.
Not at all.
Kenny, did you talk to Katie? Are we going to try to get something else lined up with her?
Yeah. For some reason, the Wi-Fi at her house right now is just acting up, and of course, it's when you need it, it's acting up. So, so she's pretty bummed about it, and but I told her, I said, we'll do it again, and she was excited, to talk about her book that's coming out, and she's got a lot of stuff coming up here in the near future. Some events that she's doing. She's actually going to be doing some events with me, like a book signing that I'm doing in Vermont. She's actually going to be doing it alongside me. So we're going to be doing some stuff together. But she definitely was excited about what she's got going on. And like a couple of years ago, she enacted that law in Port Henry, New York, to protect Champ. And, so she got that, and I know that she wanted to talk about that. So I'm not going to talk any more about that because I don't want to, take anything away. But yeah, she was really looking forward to being on here with all of us. And so she's real bummed. She's sent me some sad face emojis. But,
yeah, that was a really, really cool thing she got accomplished up there concerning Champ. I was reading about that. Good for her. That's really cool.
Yeah, she's done a lot of really good stuff, But yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Kenny, I want to now you just sparked this idea in my head. Kenny, since this is your neck of the woods, is it true that there's an ordinance protecting Bigfoot in Whitehall or in the area around Whitehall, or is that an official thing? Or
Yep, that's true.
I thought I had heard that. I know Skamania County in Washington has an ordinance that protects Bigfoot.
Yep.
And I think perhaps the area around Bellingham, Washington, but I wanted to ask you about Whitehall, if they had the similar thing that protected Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, they do. Paul Bartholomew was the one that actually spearheaded it and went to the town clerk, the officials, and yeah, he got it signed. So it was awesome. And I mean, if anybody can do it, Paul can do it. You know, that's his. You know, that's his thing. That's his town. And so yeah, it was pretty awesome that he was able to do that. So you know, the town officials just said, you know what? There's so many credible people that have said, "Hey, I'm pretty sure I saw Bigfoot." You know, there was a lot of some of the town officials, the law enforcement. You know, they've seen a lot of stuff that they said that they can't explain. So, everybody was in agreement. I guess it was unanimous. So it's pretty awesome. So yes, every year they do they call it the Sasquatch Calling Festival. And they do it in Whitehall, New York, and everybody gets up on a stage and I guess does a Bigfoot call on a microphone, and whoever does the best one, I guess, wins. And I've never participated in that, but again, that's still, as of right now, it's still scheduled. It's supposed to happen September 26th. So they haven't told me I'm canceled yet. So I'm looking forward to it. This will be my first time speaking at this event, so I'm pretty excited about it. And if worst case scenario, if they do cancel it, they told me they'll have me next year. So
okay, so if we've established that there are a few cities or towns in the U.S. that have these ordinance protecting the big guy, I've heard about them, but I've also heard many different reasons, speculations on why. What do you guys think? Do you think that they legitimately feel like there's a creature out there that needs protecting, or do you think it's like a ploy to get tourism or anything like that?
Yeah, I've heard people say. Oh, go ahead, Ken.
No, I'm sure we're on the same page here, Kenny. I think it's a combination of both. Mm-hmm. I think there genuinely are people, like he said, like Paul Bartholomew and Katie and people in Washington State that are convinced that these things exist and don't want to see any harm brought to them. But on the other hand, I think it's good PR for the local town or community to have such a law in place and to have a festival and a statue and a museum and whatever they can do to kind of, and I think that there's nothing wrong with that. I think different communities should embrace their weird monster legends, and
very much so.
Look at what's happened with Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and the Mothman. They canceled the festival this year, but typically they have 10,000 people that show up and stimulate the economy for a weekend every year to celebrate the Mothman, and there's nothing wrong with that. So,
yeah. And there's a what's the town? They call it the home of Bigfoot. I think it's Reamer, Minnesota. Is it in Minnesota?
Crookston. Crookston? I'm not sure about.
Yeah, I know it's Reamer, but I can't remember what state it's in. Oh my God, I'm totally going brain dead here. But I know that they do a large festival every year. Oh, they were actually Finding Bigfoot actually did a show there when they had their festival. So, but it was Reamer, and I believe it's Minnesota. I could be wrong about the state, but I'm pretty sure it's Reamer, Minnesota, and they do a huge festival every single year. So I haven't made it out that way yet, but I don't know. I might. I've been in Minnesota before, and like I said, I'm almost positive it's Minnesota.
Okay, I don't know if either you guys would want to answer this question, but what do you think the level of, if there even is a level of government cover up regarding Bigfoot? Do you think that there is one, or just what are your feelings about that? Because we just, as a group, had something very, very strange happen to us this week that we can't explain, and just wanted to get you guys' opinion on it. Do you think that there is something like that out there, or people just talking?
Well, I mean, yeah. It's funny because on Coast to Coast this morning, this question, very similar question was asked. And it was, when do you think the government's going to come out and actually say that these creatures exist? I think eventually it's if there is some type of government cover up, I think it's eventually going to happen, where it's going to come out. I mean, we just recently, they're admitting, the whole, TikTok UFO sighting, the Pentagon, releasing that. So I think it's getting to a point where, there's certain things that if the government does know about it, it's going to get to a point where it's going to be out. They're going to make a way to get it out. Gary, the founder of the NYBS, had mentioned last night that, his thinking is that, now that everything's going mainstream and it's in everybody's minds now, if they say, hey, yeah, guess what? There is Sasquatch, and this is what it is, that, some people may not even be as, excited about it anymore, but if they are hiding it, it's going to get to a point where they couldn't. I mean, I don't know if the government has anything to do with it. I'm not a conspiracy theory type of guy, but at the same time, I'm wrong a lot too. So
this is a hot question, and I'm with Kenney. I'm not a conspiracy advocate. And I'm not trying to offend anyone out there, but there are studies that have been done, sociological studies, on why there are certain types of personalities that are conspiracy people and think that everything is a conspiracy. And, I don't mean that in an offensive way, but I will say this, and this is not at all meant to be a political statement in terms of a highly charged political environment. When people talk about that there are these conspiracies and cover-ups that have gone on for decades in the military or whatever, I just advise people to step back and look at the level of disunity in our government between the parties, between state and local, between federal and military. In order to have a conspiracy of that magnitude where you covered up Bigfoot, you would essentially have to have, and I know some people believe in this so-called deep state or this secret, but you would have to have a level of cooperation in the government on all levels with the military, government, whoever, that just doesn't exist, in my opinion. I don't think at some point someone would have, for whatever reason, politics or whatever, if it was a cover up, it would have come out or it would have been leaked. And so I don't know. That's just my thought on it. I just don't think it's plausible that our government is capable of covering up Bigfoot for however long the people allege that that's gone. Now that said, in my new book, for example, I talk about, and I'm sure other people have heard these stories. I was contacted by an Army veteran who did his training up in I forget the big base up there in Georgia, but in northern Georgia area, and he swears to me that his field training manual, when he was in basic training, had a section on how to deal with a Sasquatch encounter when you're out in the woods, how to not confront it and this and that. So of course he doesn't have a copy of this alleged field manual, and I haven't been able to find a copy of it. But you hear those stories sometimes where there's at least perhaps some level of acknowledgement in the military or government that it is plausible that these things might exist. And, so, I mean, you hear those kinds of stories, which I think is kind of interesting.
Ken, that's very interesting. I would love to talk to you a little bit more about that. You said that this happened in a base in North Georgia, is what he's saying, what he's claiming?
There's a huge base in northern Georgia. Yeah, I can't remember anyone who's in the Army will know immediately what I'm talking about, but there's a training base in Georgia that's kind of like the base. I'm
not going to go into the huge
heavily
specifics.
Wooded.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into huge specifics about what happened with us just the other night. It was Wednesday night, but we went to Blue Ridge, Georgia. We were in the mountains. We had a 2-day expedition planned. We were there for our first night. We have two and I have pictures of this. We have two Humvees roll up on us. One of the gentlemen, the soldiers, gets out, comes over. He shakes my hand, introduces himself to me. Very polite young man. Tells me we're going to be hearing a lot of gunfire here in about 30 minutes, but 45 minutes, they'll be completely out of our hair, to just bear with them. And, that's fine. Everything. He was real personable, good conversation. Everything was good. Well, one of our members, like I said, we had about 7 people there. One of our members took the opportunity to ask him about Bigfoot, if he had ever seen anything in this area. And this is North Georgia. And I'm telling you, this is what I saw with my eyes. The man's demeanor changed. He cut the conversation short. He gave us a very rehearsed answer about bobcats screaming or something like that. He walked away. He talked to a man that he said was his boss, his commanding officer. They were looking over at us while they were talking, and it went from them leaving in about 30 to 45 minutes to they had a bunch more people come in bringing firewood, and they sat in chairs all night about 40 yards from us, built a fire, and sat around chairs and stayed all night until we left. We told them that's what we were doing up there looking for Bigfoot. We looked out in the woods. We could see headlights and flashlights all around us all night long. They were very loud. They made it very uncomfortable on us. It wasn't a great experience. Like I said, I have pictures of these Humvees sitting 40 yards from us with all these soldiers. They were fine. They were going to leave within 30 minutes until we told them what we were doing, and then their plans changed. Can't say for sure what it was, but and I'll let you guys know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy myself either. I don't believe in it. I don't listen to them. But I saw that with my eyes. So it was definitely fishy. It's just interesting, Ken, that you said that guy.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, my whole thing is like, if let's say the government is behind it, why the hell would they even care? I mean, I just don't, it's like, okay, so what, there's a Bigfoot, I mean, why was that something like they would feel like they would need to hide if they were? I mean, I get maybe extraterrestrial, you got lasers, this and that, technology, but again, with something like a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, to me, I don't know. It just does, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. But I've heard similar things where people have said different things, that they've talked to different people, and but I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't even going to bring that up tonight. We're gonna do another show later and talk about it. But when Ken brought that up about
stories,
Yeah. When Ken brought that up about North Georgia and the Army, I mean that's where we were, and that's who we dealt with. So it just, I don't know. They're definitely interesting.
It is
okay. Ricky, you've been quiet tonight. You got anything before we let the guys go?
Guys, I'm just going to sit back here listening to y'all guys. As far as the Bigfoot conspiracy and all that goes, it goes back to a lot of people this day and time believe these creatures could be interdimensional. And, sometimes I wonder myself if the cover-up conspiracy couldn't go back to something of that nature, that the government actually knows, something more than we do.
Guys, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's, I mean, there's a lot of theories, obviously, that go along with that. A lot of people say, that they're interdimensional, that they're paranormal because, there's footprints, and then all of a sudden there's no more footprints. There's definitely reasons for it, that they say it, hey, it's extraterrestrial because, I saw a UFO, and then, 10 minutes later I saw a Bigfoot. So, it's again, I mean, there's a lot of theories, and, going back, there's a lot of people that also want attention. So we just have to make sure we do our due diligence and make sure, that we stand solid, and, I call myself a healthy skeptic, because I can't 100% believe, because like I say this all the time, I've been wrong in so many times in my life about so many different things that I need to hold myself accountable. So I'm a healthy skeptic, and I question everything. And unfortunately, sometimes that upsets people. But I don't do it in a way where it's attacking. I just, I want to understand what somebody's saying, and So I don't know. I mean, there's good theories to back up why a lot of people are saying these certain different theories exist, because certain things that folks have seen, but me personally, I haven't seen any of it, so it's hard to really grasp the concept of what they're saying, other than like what I've seen possibly in like a movie.
Ken, you got anything
And
for
what I would add to that is that, people always ask me about the possibility of interdimensional Bigfoot. And what I like people to do when looking at the Bigfoot phenomenon is not have tunnel vision and look at specific cases, but back and look at the broad view, the big picture. And if you look at the broad view of Bigfoot evidence and documentation, which is featured in my new book, The Essential Guide to Bigfoot, I'm going to get that in there. The body of evidence mainly is comprised mainly of several thousand Bigfoot encounters that have been documented and investigated by research groups and things for decades. And 99.9% of those accounts do not include anything that would believe that Bigfoot was interdimensional. What's the most common Bigfoot sighting? Bigfoot crosses the road in front of a car, just like an animal would. Say Bigfoot 99.9% of the time, it's walking through the woods, out from behind a tree, it's drinking water, it's digging for something in the ground. Those are all completely natural behaviors that any physical animal would exhibit. And so when people talk about these accounts where they vanished and there were ghost lights, literally, guys, there are a few accounts like that, but you're talking about 6,000 accounts, and then you're going to focus on 100 or even dozens or whatever it is. It just doesn't, to me, it's just not a significant enough aspect of the big body of evidence with regard to Bigfoot. So that's my thought on it. But again, as Kenney said, we don't really know. I mean, anything's possible. I'm a pretty open-minded guy, but I've been investigating Bigfoot almost all my life, all over North America. I've worked with all of the leading investigators in the field, and I'm convinced they're an undiscovered something hairy, upright, that lives out in the woods, that's really good at not being found by us. That's another thing I talk about in my book, is I think that the reason we haven't found Bigfoot is they are obviously very intelligent, but they have adapted a behavior pattern that is specifically designed to avoid Homo sapiens, us. It's smart enough to recognize that we are its greatest threat, and it avoids us at all costs. I mean, they're curious, and they'll come in and they throw rocks and things. Typically, what do people, when they see big, walks away, don't want any part of it. So those are my thoughts, and that's as I said, it's just an opinion. And much like Kenney there, I've been wrong so many times in my life that I don't know if I want to put any money behind that. But that stand.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the flesh and blood side. And if, again, I understand why a lot of folks, from what they've said, why they believe it could be interdimensional or paranormal. But again, to echo, what Ken said, a lot of the time you see it, when crossing a road or walking in the opposite direction, trying to get away from you. And as far as footprints disappearing, I've mentioned this before. There's certain things like I've done, like I've looked at my footprints before. I've studied my footprints, where I'll look back at where I walked, and I'll see where I left footprints, and I'll see where the ground looks exactly the same, but I didn't leave anything. And I'm not talking about like mud or anything like that. I'm just talking about like your general ground, and a lot of the time it depends on, the ground looks the same, but what is actually underneath in the ground, I don't know, you could be on some solid area and then walk through an area where there's actually some, it's a little bit more moist, but it looks the same. And I've noticed that with my, just studying my own footprints. to see, how it actually interacts instead of looking for a Bigfoot footprint, because you might get one, you might get two. I looked at mine and I noticed a pattern where the ground looked exactly the same, but I left imprints in some of it and some I didn't. And I'm thinking it has something to do with the actual surface of the ground and what might even be underneath it.
All right. Really good conversation tonight, man. Thank you guys so much for being here. We're coming up on an hour, and I was planning on going about 50 minutes tonight, like I told Kenny, but we've gone over. And Ken, I'm glad you got to hang around for all of it, buddy. I really am. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad he was able to stick around.
Thanks again for having me on. I felt bad that Katy got involved. Yeah, I can't feel Katy in terms of research. She's so you guys are gonna have to talk about her work. But people should check out the book. I've read it and it's informative, full of good information, and written very effectively, which I think Bigfoot books typically should be. And also my new book, The Essential Guide to Bigfoot. If people are interested, I spoke to Cliff Barrickman yesterday, and he told me it's one of the top sellers at his North American Bigfoot Center Museum. So you mentioned finding Bigfoot earlier, so that was kind of a feather in my cap. That made me feel pretty good too. So
where can we get your book at, Ken? Ken, did you hear me, buddy? Where can we get your book?
It's available on Amazon, and there's print or Kindle versions available. Yeah, available on Amazon. There are Kindle versions available on Amazon.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like Ken's having a little bit of technical difficulty too. You're freezing just a little bit, Ken. But we're at the end of the show, and again, guys, thank you, Kenney, thank you, Ken, so much for coming on. And Kenney, express my apologies to Katy and let her know that we'd be glad for you two to come back on and talk about her and give her a little bit of a plug if that's something she wants to do.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. She definitely will. She definitely will. She's really bummed, that she fell off, but she's thinking it's the Wi-Fi at her house. So
okay, all right. Well, we are going to say good night, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us, and good luck with everything in the future. Ken, I'll see you up in the Smokies, buddy.
Guys, glad to have you on here. Thank you for your appearance.
Sounds good.
Good luck in your endeavors.
Great. Thanks, guys.
See you guys. All right, buddy. Well, I hate that we had so much technical issues there. It's a bummer about Katy, and Ken was messing up there toward the end. Yeah, but it's a good show. Good conversation with a couple of good guys tonight. What do you think?
Sure was. Real good conversation.
And we got to tell a little bit about the events that took place the other night, but we didn't get a chance to go deep in them. And I'll tell you what I would like to do, what I'm planning, because Brian volunteered to come on and talk about what happened. I'm thinking about putting a show together not this coming Monday, but maybe the next one, where it's just us and we talk about what happened up there, and all the guys can give their views, and maybe we can get some feedback from the audience. What do you think?
Oh yeah, let's do it. I think this is something that everybody needs to know about. I mean, excuse me, when you got a group of guys in like that, y'all were 12 miles back in there away from anybody. You weren't hurting anybody. You were doing something that you were out there to do, and to get government interference in a deal like that, I'm just not buying it. There's some reason that they actually do this.
Yeah, you're right. I'm looking right now at the calendar, and July 6th. You want to go ahead and just mark it down for all of us, and we'll talk to the guys.
All right.
All right, I just saved it. So we got us down for July 6th. That's on a Monday. It'd be 9 o'clock. So you guys want to wait, check on that one, come back and watch that one, guys. It was a good one. Y'all won't be disappointed. All right, Ricky.
You're gonna notify the Georgia team on that.
Do what?
I said you're gonna notify the members of the Georgia team on that.
Yeah, well, you can too. We'll both talk to them. Just make sure that it's okay. All right, buddy. If you ain't got nothing else, we'll jump off here.
All right, guys. As always, everybody be safe out there. If you encounter one of these things, just back out and let them have it. Don't play hero.
Well said. As always, you guys, everybody out there, y'all be good to each other. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time.
See you, Wayne.